There aren't many good jobs close to where I live, so like most people, you take what you can get. The bar I worked at wasn't special. No live music, no rowdy crowds, just steady business and long boring shifts that blended together. Most nights passed, without anything memorable happening. The night this story begins felt no different. I closed up the bar a little after 2 a.m., wiped down the counter, locked the doors, and stepped into the cold. My car was the only one left in the lot. I remember thinking how quiet everything felt. Too quiet. The kind of silence where it feels like the world has gone to sleep without you. My drive home usually took around 40 minutes. Mostly 2-lane highways cutting through dense pine forest. I'd made that drive so many times I could practically do it with my eyes closed. I knew where the road dipped, where the deer liked to dart out, where the cell service dropped to nothing. About 10 minutes into the drive, I saw flashing orange lights ahead. Construction. I let out an annoyed breath and slowed down. A large illuminated arrow board blocked the main road, forcing all traffic onto a narrow side road I had never taken before. No painted lines. No street lights. Just a thin strip of cracked asphalt disappearing into the trees. I checked my GPS. Estimated delay 25 minutes. Perfect, I muttered, turning the wheel. The moment my tires left the highway and rolled onto the detour, everything felt different. The forest closed in immediately. My high beams carved out a narrow tunnel of light, revealing nothing but tree trunks and hanging branches. No houses, no reflectors, no signs, just darkness. The first 10 minutes were almost hypnotic. The engine hummed. A podcast droned quietly through my speakers. I wasn't really listening to it. My eyes kept flicking to the rearview mirror. You know that feeling when your brain convinces you just for a split second that someone is sitting in your backseat. That feeling crept in and refused to leave. Shadows on the side of the road looked like people standing just beyond the edge of my headlights. A plastic bag tangled in a branch looked like a pale face. I turned the volume up, trying to drown out the unease crawling up my spine. That's when I saw the taillights. Red, steady, about a quarter mile ahead. As I got closer, I saw an older sedan pulled off onto the dirt shoulder. The hazards weren't on. Just brake lights glowing, as if someone was sitting inside with their foot pressed down. My first instinct was to drive past. It was nearly 300 AM miles from anywhere on a nameless road in the middle of the woods. You don't stop. Every horror story starts with someone stopping. But then the driver's door opened. A woman stepped out. She looked young, early 20s maybe. Small, wrapped in a thin cardigan that did nothing to fight the cold. She didn't wave her arms or shout. She just stood there hugging herself, staring into my headlights. She looked terrified. That's when my rational brain kicked in. If it had been a man, I would have kept driving. No hesitation. But this was a woman, alone in the middle of nowhere. What if her phone was dead? What if her car really had broken down? I slowed. Gravel crunched beneath my tires as I pulled onto the shoulder, stopping about 20 feet behind her car. I didn't put my car in park. I kept my foot on the brake. Engine running. Window cracked open just an inch. She approached slowly, shielding her eyes from the light. Up close, she looked worse. Pale. Mascara streaked down her cheeks like she'd been crying. Her hands trembled violently. "I'm so sorry," she said. Her voice shook. "My car just died. I think it's the battery. I don't have any service out here." I glanced at my phone. 1 bar. Barely anything. "Are you okay?" I asked, keeping my hand near the gear shift. "Do you have someone you can call?" "I tried," she said quietly. "I've been sitting here for over an hour. I need to get home." She looked harmless. Genuinely harmless. The paranoia in my gut started to fade, replaced by guilt. "I don't have jumper cables," I lied. "They were in my trunk, but I didn't want to get out. But I can let you use my phone or I can drive you back toward the highway." She hesitated, glancing back at her car. "Could you maybe just take a look?" she asked. "My dad usually fixes this stuff. I'm scared to leave it here." I sighed. I just wanted to go home. "All right," I said. "I'll take a quick look." I put the car in park and turned on my hazard lights. The clicking echoed loudly in the quiet. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out into the cold. The woods were completely silent. No insects, no wind, Nothing. I walked toward her, car flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. She followed a few steps behind me. As I got closer, I noticed the windows were heavily tinted, almost black. You couldn't see inside at all. You said it died while you were driving, I asked, reaching for the hood latch. Yeah, she replied. I popped the hood and shined the light over the engine. I'm not a mechanic, but nothing looked obviously wrong. The battery terminals were clean, belts intact. Try starting it, I said. No response. I turned around. She had moved. She was standing near the passenger door, now staring into the woods on the opposite side of the road. It's not the battery, she said. Her voice had changed. Flat. Calm. What do you mean? I asked. She turned toward me and smiled. Not a relieved smile, not a nervous one. A predator's smile. It's the bait, she whispered. That's when I heard it. A metallic click. A car door unlocking, but not her car, my car. Through my rear windshield glowing red from my taillights, I saw a dark silhouette rise up from the ditch beside my vehicle. Someone had been lying there the entire time, waiting. They started running toward my driver's door. I was 20 feet away from safety, and I wasn't alone anymore. The moment I realized what was happening, my body reacted before my brain could catch up. I slammed the hood of the woman's car shut as hard as I could and ran. I didn't run into the woods. Every instinct screamed not to. I ran straight toward my car. The man came out of the ditch fast, faster than I thought possible. He was wearing dark clothes and a ski mask, and in his hand was a tire iron that caught the red glow of my taillights as he moved. He reached my driver's door just as I lunged for it. He yanked it open and stood in the doorway, blocking me. I skidded to a stop a few feet away. He was big, broad shoulders, solid. The kind of build that told you fighting back wasn't an option. Keys, he said, voice low and muffled behind the mask. I looked past him at the woman. She leaned casually against her car, now arms crossed, watching like this was a routine inconvenience. Whatever fear she'd shown earlier was gone. Give him the keys, she said calmly. And maybe we won't hurt you. My heart slammed against my ribs. The engine of my car was still running. My phone sat uselessly in the center console. The road was empty in both directions. Then I realized something. I hadn't taken the keys. It was a push to start. The fob was still in my pocket, but the engine was already on. If I handed it over, they'd drive away and leave me stranded in the woods. If I didn't, I'd get beaten until I did. The man raised the tire iron, slightly impatience creeping into his posture. Now, he growled. I reached into my pocket slowly and pulled out the key fob, holding it up so he could see it clearly. Okay, I said, forcing panic into my voice. Okay, just take it. I threw the keys. Not at him. I hurled them as hard as I could, high and deep into the pitch-black woods behind him. His head snapped toward the sound instinctively. That half-second was all I needed. I lowered my shoulder and lunged. I slammed into his side, catching him off balance. He stumbled, but his arm swung wildly. The tire iron connected with my shoulder in a sickening thud. Pain exploded down my arm, instant and blinding. My hand went numb, but I was inside the car. I collapsed into the driver's seat and reached for the door with my good arm. The man recovered quickly, grabbing the edge of the door frame and wrenching it back open with brute strength. I looked up at him through the ski mask. His eyes were wide and furious, not panicked, not surprised, angry. This wasn't a robbery anymore. Grab him, the woman screamed. I didn't try to fight him. I slammed my foot on the brake and shoved the car into reverse. The transmission clunked. The car lurched backward. The open door smashed into the man's body, knocking him off his feet. He hit the gravel hard and rolled away with a shout. I shifted into drive, yanked the door shut, and locked it immediately. The dashboard chimed violently. Key not detected. The engine was running, but the car knew the fob was gone. If the engine died, I was finished. I floored it. The tires spun on gravel before catching traction. The car fishtailed onto the road as I sped away, heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. For 30 seconds, I didn't look back. Then headlights exploded into my rearview mirror. They were coming. The sedan that had supposedly broken down was charging after me, high beams burning into my eyes. They closed the distance fast, too fast. The first impact came hard. My car jerked forward as the bumper slammed into me. I fought the steering wheel, barely keeping out of the ditch. They hit me again. This wasn't about stealing the car. They wanted me off the road. They wanted me trapped. The realization was worse than the fear. If they succeeded, no one would find me. Not out here. The road twisted sharply. I braked and drifted into the oncoming lane. The sedan didn't slow. They cut the corner, trying to pull alongside me. For a split second, we were side by side. The woman was driving. She had the interior light on her face, twisted with pure hatred. She looked at me, not like prey, not like a victim, but like something she intended to finish. The man leaned out the passenger window, swinging the tire iron toward my car. I jerked the wheel and sideswiped them. Metal screamed. Sparks flew. Their car skidded toward the muddy shoulder. The woman overcorrected, and the sedan spun wildly before disappearing into the ditch with a violent crash. I didn't stop. I didn't slow down. I drove until the forest thinned and the glow of the highway appeared ahead. I merged recklessly into traffic and kept going until I saw the bright lights of a 24-hour truck stop. I parked directly under the security cameras and shut off the engine. Only then did I collapse. The police found the tire tracks. They found the skid marks, but the sedan was gone. What they did find, hidden deeper in the woods, was worse. Phones, wallets, zip ties, duct tape, surgical tools. They told me I was lucky. I don't think luck had anything to do with it. Sometimes the monsters don't jump out of the dark. Sometimes they stand in the headlights shaking, asking for help. If you enjoy true horror stories that send chills down your spine, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video. Every subscription helps keep these stories coming. I started driving for a rideshare app about 6 months ago. It was never meant to be permanent, just a temporary fix. I had credit card debt piling up, an IT job that never materialized, and a car payment that didn't care about excuses. For the most part, the job was exactly what you'd expect. Drunk college kids blasting music they didn't pay for. Businessmen shouting into Bluetooth headsets like the person on the other end couldn't hear them. Nurses slumped in the back seat after 12-hour shifts, too tired to speak. But every driver knows this truth. Most rides are forgettable. And then there are the ones that never let you go. This happened on a Thursday night, or technically Friday morning. It was raining hard, the kind of rain that smears city lights into long, trembling streaks across the windshield. It was just after 1:45 a.m., and I was parked near the downtown bar district, waiting for surge pricing to kick in. That's when my phone pinged. Passenger Jaden, rating 4.8 stars, trip length 45 minutes. A long ride at that hour usually meant good money. I didn't hesitate. I accepted. The pickup location wasn't a bar. It wasn't even near one. It was a quiet industrial block, warehouses, auto body shops, and nothing else. No foot traffic, no open businesses, just rain and empty sidewalks. It struck me as odd, but I told myself he was probably a night shift worker. When I pulled up, I saw him immediately. Jaden stood under a broken street lamp that flickered weakly, rain pouring down around him. He was in his late 40s, wearing a sharp gray suit that looked expensive but was completely soaked through. No coat, no umbrella. He clutched a black leather briefcase tightly against his chest. He wasn't pacing. He wasn't checking his phone. He was standing perfectly still. I unlocked the doors. He opened the back door and slid inside. The smell hit me instantly. Ozone, wet wool, and something metallic sharp like copper. "Jaden," I asked, glancing at him in the rearview mirror. He didn't look at me. He stared out the window at the brick wall of the warehouse. "Just drive," he said. His voice sounded dry, strained. I pulled away from the curb. The windshield wipers slapped back and forth, filling the silence. I glanced at the GPS. The destination was a residential area deep in the suburbs, a place called Blackwood Creek. Large houses, long driveways, lots of trees. The first 10 minutes passed without a word. I didn't turn the music on. Something about the way he sat rigid, gripping the briefcase like it was fused to his body, made noise feel wrong. I kept checking the mirror. He hadn't moved. Then he spoke. "Do you believe in luck?" The question caught me off guard. He gave a short, humorless laugh. There's no such thing as good luck. Only bad luck that hasn't arrived yet. Great, I thought. One of those. Rough night, I asked. You could say that, he replied. For the first time he looked at me in the mirror. His face was pale, almost gray under the passing streetlights. Not tired in the normal sense. He looked worn down in a way that felt deeper than sleep. I took something I shouldn't have, he said quietly. My stomach tightened. Look, man, I don't need to know anything illegal. I'm just the driver. Not drugs, he said. He tapped the briefcase. Information. We merged onto the highway, the city skyline shrinking behind us. The road ahead was empty. Then Jaden spoke again. There's a car following us. My heart skipped. What? Don't look obvious, he said calmly. Black SUV. No headlights. I checked the mirror. At first, I saw nothing. Then I noticed it a large shape behind us, barely visible, keeping its distance. No lights. Just darkness moving with us. Probably just someone who forgot to turn their lights on, I said, forcing a laugh. Change lanes. I moved to the right. The SUV moved with me. Speed up. I pressed the gas. 65. 75. The SUV matched me effortlessly. Closing the gap. Who are they? I asked, my voice tightening. Cleaners, Jaden said. Before I could ask what that meant, a blinding white spotlight erupted from the SUV, flooding my car. I couldn't see the road. Take the exit, Jaden shouted. Now I swerved across lanes, barely missing the median, and shot down the off-ramp. Tires screamed. Rain hammered the roof. The SUV followed. We were off the highway, now speeding down a narrow 2-lane road toward Blackwood Creek. Trees closed in on both sides. The SUV bumped my rear bumper once hard enough to make my car shudder. Why are they chasing you? I yelled. I saw a face, Jaden muttered. A face I wasn't supposed to see. Another impact rocked the car. There, Jaden pointed ahead. The dirt road turned left. I saw it at the last second, a hidden service road marked by a rusted gate hanging open. I turned hard. Gravel exploded beneath us as we bounced into the darkness. Turn off your lights, Jaden said. I hesitated. Do it. I killed the headlights. The world vanished. We crawled forward in total darkness, guided only by faint moonlight filtering through the trees until the road ended at a dilapidated, abandoned barn. Stop here, he whispered. I stopped. The woods were silent. Did we lose them? I asked. Jaden didn't answer. He opened the door and stepped out into the rain. For a moment after Jaden stepped out of the car, I just sat there, staring through the windshield at the dark shape of the barn ahead of us. The rain had softened to a steady drizzle, tapping against the roof in a slow, uneven rhythm. The woods around us felt unnaturally quiet, like everything was holding its breath. Jaden opened the back door again and leaned inside. He unclasped the briefcase. Inside were stacks of cash, hundreds. Neatly bundled, packed so tightly, it looked unreal, like something from a movie prop department. He pulled out a thick bundle and tossed it onto the passenger seat. That's $5,000, he said calmly. Cash. I stared at it, my mouth dry. I don't want it, I said. I don't want any part of this. You already have a part, he replied. Not unkindly, just factual. You drove well. He reached into his jacket and pulled out something silver. A handgun. Small but very real. I'm done running, he said. I'll keep them busy. You need to leave. Now. Before I could argue, he shut the door. I put the car in reverse. I didn't look back. I drove down the dirt road with no headlights, heart hammering, hands shaking so badly I could barely keep the wheel straight. When I reached the asphalt, I turned the lights back on and sped away. A few seconds later, I heard it. 2 sharp cracks. Gunshots. I didn't stop driving until I reached the police station in the next county. I told them everything. I handed over the money. I begged them to check the barn. They sent officers out. An hour later, they came back confused. They found the barn. They found tire tracks. They found footprints in the mud. But no body. No briefcase. No blood. No shell casings. And no signs of an SUV. They checked traffic cameras on the highway. The footage showed my car swerving across lanes at high speed. But there was nothing behind me. No SUV. Nothing. They told me I'd had a stress-induced hallucination, that I'd imagined Jaden, that I'd panicked and driven recklessly for no reason. They didn't even keep the money. There was no crime to attach it to. I went home just before dawn and sat on my couch with all the lights on, staring at the stack of bills on my coffee table. Around 4:00 a.m., I pulled the memory card from my dash cam and watched the footage. That's when everything fell apart. The camera showed me talking to the back seat, arguing, shouting, but the back seat was empty. When I stopped at the barn, the rear door opened by itself, the seat cushion depressed, as if someone invisible was sitting there. And then the money appeared. It didn't blink into existence. It floated for a fraction of a second before landing on the seat. I watched it frame by frame until my vision blurred. Jaden had been there, but he wasn't visible. I decided I had to get rid of the money. Whatever Jaden was, whatever those cleaners were, that cash was tied to them. I shoved it into a trash bag and headed for the door. That's when my phone buzzed. A ride request. I hadn't even opened the app. Passenger Jaden, rating 5 stars. Pickup current, location, destination, the beginning. I looked out my apartment window. Parked directly in front of my building was a black SUV. No lights. No license plate. Windows so dark they looked like holes cut out of the world. A message popped up. You have something of ours. Another followed. Bring the bag, or we come up. I took the money downstairs. The SUV's rear window lowered just enough to swallow the bag when I tossed it inside. The engine hummed softly, electric, almost silent. Then the car rolled forward and vanished. Not drove away, vanished. The rain fell through the empty space where it had been. I deleted the app. I wiped my dash cam. I quit driving. I thought it was over. Last night I got a bank notification. Deposit $5,000. Source tip. Jaden. This morning there was an envelope in my mailbox. Inside a single index card. Status hired role driver. Next pickup tonight. 2:00 a.m. They weren't paying me. They were recruiting me. So tonight I'm getting in my car, because I know now. If I don't show up, I'll be the last fare. If you enjoy true horror stories that send chills down your spine, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video. My wife Ariana and I had just moved into a farmhouse about 10 miles outside of town. It was supposed to be our forever home. We had a 6-month-old son, Leo, and the apartment in the city was just too small and too loud. We wanted quiet. We wanted privacy. We got more of it than we bargained for. The house was old, built sometime in the 1920s with creaky floorboards and drafty windows. It sat on 4 acres of land that backed up to a dense thicket of oak trees. The nearest neighbor was a mile down the road. I'm an architect, so I work from home a lot. Ariana is a nurse who pulls the graveyard shift 3 nights a week. On those nights, it's just me and Leo. The first few weeks were fine. I actually enjoyed the solitude. But then the tech issues started. We had bought one of those high-end baby monitors, the kind that connects to Wi-Fi so you can watch the feed on your phone. It had night vision, 2-way audio, and motion alerts. It was a Tuesday night. Ariana had left for the hospital around 9:00 p.m. I put Leo down in his crib upstairs, turned on his white noise machine, and went downstairs to the living room to work on some blueprints. I propped my phone up on the desk, the baby monitor app open so I could keep an eye on him. Around 11:30 p.m., I was deep in focus when the app chimed. Motion detected nursery. I glanced at the screen. The night vision cast everything in a ghostly green and gray. Leo was fast asleep, a little lump under his blanket. Nothing was moving. Glitch, I muttered, dismissing the notification. 10 minutes later, it happened again. Motion detected nursery. I looked again. Still nothing. Leo hadn't moved an inch. I frowned. I adjusted the sensitivity settings on the app, turning them down. Maybe it was picking up dust motes or shadows from the tree outside the window. I went to the kitchen to grab a glass of water. The farmhouse was dead silent. The only sound was the refrigerator humming and the settling of the old wooden beams. When I got back to my desk, the app was chiming incessantly. Motion detected, motion detected, motion detected. I picked up the phone. The screen was frozen. The video feed was lagging, pixelating heavily. I force-closed the app and reopened it. When the feed reconnected, my heart dropped into my stomach. Leo was still asleep, but the rocking chair in the corner of the room was moving. It was a heavy wooden rocking chair. It wasn't rocking fast, just a slow, rhythmic back and forth, as if someone was sitting in it, gently pushing off the floor. Skeptic brain, I told myself. Drafts. It's an old house. The heat just kicked on. I watched the screen transfixed. The chair slowly came to a stop. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Okay. Just a draft. I sat back down, trying to force myself to focus on work, but the atmosphere in the house had shifted. The silence felt heavier. I felt exposed in the living room with the large, uncovered windows looking out into the pitch-black yard. I decided to go upstairs and check on Leo physically, just for peace of mind. I walked up the stairs, skipping the third step because it creaked loudly. The hallway was dark. The door to the nursery was cracked open a few inches, just like I left it. I pushed the door open gently. The room was warm. The white noise machine hummed its static lullaby. I walked over to the crib. Leo was fine, breathing softly, his tiny hand clutching the blanket. I looked at the rocking chair in the corner. It was perfectly still. I felt foolish. I was a grown man, spooked by a glitchy app and an old house. I adjusted Leo's blanket, kissed his forehead, and turned to leave. As I reached the doorway, a sound stopped me cold. It came from the baby monitor camera, which sat on top of the dresser facing the crib. Click. It was the sound of the camera's shutter opening and closing. Someone was taking a picture. But I wasn't holding my phone. My phone was downstairs. I stared at the little device. The small LED light, which was usually green, was blinking red. Then a voice came through the speaker of the monitor. It was tinny and distorted, but distinct. "He looks just like you." It was a man's voice. A whisper. I froze. My blood turned to ice. "Who is this?" I demanded, staring at the camera. "Is this some kind of sick joke, hackers?" I had read about this. People hacking into insecure Wi-Fi cameras to mess with families. It was terrifying, but it was distant. They were just trolls on a computer somewhere, probably halfway across the world. "Get out of my house," I shouted at the camera, feeling a mix of anger and violation. "I'm unplugging this." I reached for the cord. "I wouldn't do that, Blake," the voice whispered. My hand hovered over the plug. He knew my name. "I like the blue shirt you're wearing," the voice continued. "But you really should have fixed that third step on the stairs. It's very loud." The world tilted on its axis. He wasn't halfway across the world. He wasn't looking through the camera in the nursery. He had heard the step creak. He could see my shirt. He was inside the house. I stood frozen in the nursery, my hand hovering over the power outlet. The voice on the monitor had been a whisper, but it echoed in my head like a scream. "He likes the blue shirt I'm wearing." He heard the third step creak. Reason tried to claw its way back in. Maybe he hacked my laptop camera downstairs. Maybe he hacked the security system. But I hadn't walked past the laptop. And we didn't have indoor security cameras, only the baby monitor. The only way someone could know, I stepped on the third step, and the only way they could see the back of my shirt while I stood facing the crib was if they were behind me or above me. I didn't turn around. Instinct took over the primal urge to protect my child. I snatched Leo from the crib. He stirred, letting out a small, confused whimper, but I shushed him, pressing his head against my chest to muffle the sound. Leaving so soon, the voice crackled through the monitor. "We were just getting acquainted." I didn't answer. I bolted. I ran out of the nursery, skipping the creaky step, and sprinted down the hallway to the master bedroom. I slammed the door shut and engaged the deadbolt. Then I shoved the heavy oak dresser in front of the door. My heart was hammering so hard I thought I might pass out. I gently placed Leo on the center of our bed, surrounding him with pillows. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. My hands were shaking so badly, I dropped it twice before I dialed 911. 911. "What is your emergency?" "There's someone in my house," I whispered, my voice trembling. "I'm in the bedroom with my son. He spoke to me through the baby monitor." He knows what I'm wearing. Okay, sir, listen to me. Are you locked in a safe room? Yes. Master bedroom. Door is locked and barricaded. Officers are already on the way. Keep the line open. Do you hear anything right now? I strained my ears against the silence of the old house. I expected to hear footsteps charging up the stairs. I expected the doorknob to jiggle. I expected shouting, but there was nothing. Just the wind whistling against the siding and the settling of the floorboards. No, I whispered. It's quiet. Too quiet. Stay on the line. For the next 8 minutes, I sat on the edge of the bed holding Leo's hand, staring at the bedroom door. Every shadow looked like a threat. Every creak sounded like a footstep. Then, I saw it. Our master bedroom has a small ensuite bathroom. The door was open. Inside on the vanity counter, I had set up a second monitor unit, the parent unit, so Ariana could hear the baby while she was getting ready for work. The screen on that unit lit up. I hadn't touched it. It was automatic triggered by sound or motion in the nursery. I leaned forward, squinting at the tiny screen in the bathroom. The camera in the nursery was still active. I could see the empty crib. I could see the rocking chair. And then a pair of legs dropped down into the frame. They didn't come through the door. They dropped from the ceiling. A man dressed in dark, ragged clothes lowered himself from the attic access panel located in the hallway ceiling just outside the nursery door. He landed softly on the floorboards right where the creaky step was. He knew exactly how to land to avoid the noise. He walked into the nursery. He was tall, gaunt, with greasy hair plastered to his forehead. He walked right up to the camera. He stared into the lens. His eyes were wide, manic, and terrifyingly hollow. He wasn't looking at the camera. He was looking at me. He knew I was watching the parent unit in the bedroom. He raised a finger to his lips. Shh. Then he turned and walked out of the nursery, disappearing into the hallway. Toward my bedroom. He's coming, I told the operator, my voice breaking. He's in the hall. He's coming for the door. Do you have a weapon? I have a baseball bat in the closet, I said, scrambling to grab it. I stood in front of the bed, bat raised, ready to kill anything that came through that door. I heard the floorboards in the hallway groan. A slow, deliberate weight shifting outside the door. Then the doorknob turned. The lock held. The dresser held. The knob rattled again violently this time. Then a heavy thud against the wood. He was throwing his shoulder into it. Open up, Blake, the voice said. It wasn't through a speaker this time. It was muffled by the wood just inches away. I just want to see the baby. The wood splintered. Leo started screaming the noise, piercing the tension. Police. The shout came from downstairs. Blue and red lights flashed through the window curtains. Upstairs, I screamed. He's upstairs! I heard the heavy tramp of boots on the stairs, shouting, and then a loud crash in the hallway. Get on the ground. Show me your hands. There was a scuffle, a sickening thud of a body hitting the wall, and the sound of handcuffs ratcheting tight. Clear. We're clear. When the police finally let me out of the bedroom, I was a wreck. They had the man in the back of a cruiser. He wasn't a hacker. He was a drifter who had been reported missing from a halfway house 3 towns over. But the real horror wasn't the man himself. It was what they found when they went into the attic. The officer in charge, a grim-faced sergeant named Miller, called me over. You need to see this, he said quietly. I climbed the ladder into the attic. It was a dusty, unfinished space filled with insulation and old boxes. But over the master bedroom and the nursery, the insulation had been packed down to make a sleeping area. There was a sleeping bag, a bucket for waste. Empty wrappers of food that had gone missing from our pantry over the last few weeks. Granola bars, crackers, things we thought we had just misplaced. And there were holes. Small, quarter-inch holes drilled into the drywall of the ceiling, looking down into the nursery, the hallway, and our bedroom. He hadn't just been there that night. Based on the amount of trash, he had been living above us for at least 2 weeks. He had watched us sleep. He had watched us change. He had watched me rock Leo to sleep in the middle of the night. The hacking, it wasn't high-tech. He had simply looked through the hole in the nursery ceiling, read the setup code on the back of the camera when I unboxed it, and connected to it with his own smartphone. He wanted to talk to us. He wanted to play with us. We moved out the next day. We didn't even pack everything. We just took the essentials and went to my parents' house. We put the farmhouse on the market a week later. I can't sleep in the dark anymore. I can't stand the sound of silence. Because every time the house settles, every time a floorboard creaks, I wonder if it's just the house, or if someone else has moved in above me.